Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So today here I have another currently inked, so another 10 pens inked up this week. So we'll just go briefly left to right, and then we'll go into the pens in a little bit more detail, and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have the Armando Simoni Club, and this is the Bologna Extra Wild. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl. We have a Visconti Luxor Obelisk. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog. We have the Visconti Opera Master River Thames. We have a Visconti Ecstasy Dowd. We have a Visconti Jacques de Molay. We have a Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. We have a classic Pens Lb5 in the Calcecchi or metal ore, and then we have an Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Africa. So I think let's look at these pens in a little bit more detail. So we have the Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra, and this is the wild side, and this is a celluloid, and this is a celluloid that was originally made in a lot of Omas pens, and it's a really nice celluloid. The section is the same colour as well. It's a pneumatic filling pen. It has a massive number 8 size nib on it there. And this has the Armando Simoni Club, and this is the Magic Flex nib. And you can see there, it is a massive number 8 size nib. And these write very wet and very nice. Now, they don't flex an awful amount, I would say, compared to some of my other nibs, but I do like how these write. I do like wet writing pens, and this is a pen that is definitely a wet writing pen, so I do like these a lot. And then I have the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl, and this is gradually running out of ink. It's not a lot of ink left in the barrel. I will probably rinse this out because I'm not writing with it an awful amount. This is a, you'll see why, it's actually using a 1.3mm palladium stub nib, and I just haven't been writing with stubs a lot lately, but I wanted to crack this one open and start to write with it because I do have a little bit of ink left in the barrel here. You can see there probably about a little bit there. So I do want to actually run this pen down before cleaning it out. I tend not to try and waste ink as much as I can, even though ink is cheap. I know that might sound a little bit silly, but I would prefer to actually write with a pen before cleaning it out. So I have this lovely bronze swirl, and you can see there this is beautiful pattern going on. So I have been writing a little bit more with that pen this week. And I have this stunning pen, and this is the Visconti, and this is the Luxor Obelisk, and this is a beautiful pen. It's a maquillé pen, so it's hand painted and then it's lacquered. So it has a like a urushi style lacquer going on, and it is made of an ebonite pen, but you can see here those hieroglyphs are really quite exquisite. It's a power vac filling pen, just like the Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl, and I have a 23 cat palladium medium nib on that pen. But again, that's a pen that writes really well, and you can see the double reservoir ink window there as well. But for me, this is a pen that is really well balanced, and it's a joy to write with. So I've been writing with this pen a little bit more. It's a beautiful pen, you can see there. It's absolutely stunning. So I'm really glad that I was able to add that one to my collection, and I do write with that regularly. And then we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens, and this is the London Fog. And again, I've been writing this one, I was going to say dry, but it's not dry. There's still a fair amount of ink left in here. But I have refilled this once this week, and I'm already getting low again. So I did actually write it dry once, but it's not quite dry yet. Now this has a 23 carat palladium nib, and it's a fine nib. And I've been writing with this mostly in meetings, taking meeting notes. It's a beautiful pen, has this lovely swirl on it, although the swirl, the ribbon pattern is a little bit more muted when there's ink inside the pen, which is a shame, but it is a stunning pen, not only to look at, but also to write with as well. And then made out of the cap material, we have this Visconti Opera Master River Thames, and this is a much larger pen and a much heavier pen. You can see here, it's made of that same cap material that the London Fog is made of. And this is a much larger pen, as you can see in my hands here. And this again is a 23 carat palladium nib, but again this is a stub nib, so it's a 1.3mm stub nib. And I've not been writing with stubs as much lately, so I've been wanting to try and get into the stubs a little bit more again. I go through phases that at one point I go for a fine or a medium nib, and then I go to a stub, and then I go to a broad, and then I'm back to a medium again. And more lately I've been writing with medium to broad nibs, so I've not been writing a lot with the stub nibs, so I've been trying to write a little bit more with those. And then we have this beautiful Visconti Ecstasy Dowd, and I know some people will say it's hideous, it's a horrible looking pen. I actually like it. I do like these silver and gold overlays. This is a vermeil, so it is a gold plated overlay, but this is a really cracking pen. I do like the amount of detail that's gone on this pen. So if I zoom in here, you can just see that amount of detail that goes into that cap there. So for me, this is really, really good, and I do like this pen a lot. And you can see here again the lovely patterns that they've put here in this pen. So for me, this is a wonderful pen. The nib actually is a really, really lovely, bouncy 23 carat palladium nib, and it's a nib that I really do love writing with. So you can see that there. It's quite a nice writing medium nib for me, so that works really well for me. I do like bouncy nibs more than nibs that are nails, so when I write with that pen, I do like writing with it a lot. And then we have the Visconti Jacques de Molay, and this was a pen that I bought earlier on in 2019, and this is a really, really lovely pen. So it's a pen that I've been eyeing for a couple of years now, and I was able to get one, and I'm so glad I did, because the pen is beautifully stunning. So it doesn't have a clip on the cap, so you do have to be a bit careful there. It also has a chrome section, so you have to be a bit careful with the ink that you're using. But for me, I'm using a grey ink in this pen, and it's a 23 carat palladium medium nib, which actually writes a little bit more on the fine side of things, but I do like it a lot. And this pen isn't as heavy as it looks to be, but it still has a bit of a heft to it, but it's not as heavy as some of my pens can be. So, but this again is a really nice pen. And then I have the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove, and I've had a number of requests from people saying, would you sell this pen? They're looking to buy it, and unfortunately no, I wouldn't. Like a lot of my pens, most of these pens are quite precious to me, valuable to me, and they're not cheap pens either. And I bought the pen because I like the pen, and I also write with the pen. So if the pen writes well and I like the pen, then it's a pen that I tend to keep in my collection. Does it mean that I will never sell the pen? Probably not. I probably will sell the pens at some point, just not at this moment in time. But you can see here, this is a beautiful, stunning material. I do like the stacked celluloid. and there's not a lot of it going around anymore. Not a lot left in the world, so once it's gone, it's gone. Now this has a number 8 size nib, although it may not look like it, but the nib actually goes into the section a lot more than most pens, but it's a Montegrappa dove nib, and it has an ebonite feed there. But this again is a beautiful nib, and I do like that it has the celluloid as a section. Most Montegrappas actually have a silver section here, and it will tarnish over time and you have to keep polishing it, and I'm not one for polishing silver too much, so for me I tend to prefer not to have the silver coloured section, but I know for some people that's something that they like, so it's each to their own. And then we have the classic Pens Lb5 that I have inked up, and this is the Kaoseki, which is also translated to metal ore. But again, this is a beautiful, stunning pen. Again, it almost looks like a stacked celluloid, but it's not. It's a diffusion bonded acrylic, but that is a really nice material there that they have in the classic pens range of pens. And this is Andy Lambreaux, and this is a really nice pen. So this pen was actually made by Sailor, as you can see there, for classic pens, and it's an Lb5 Kaoseki. And then if I unscrew the cap, you'll see here, because it was made by Sailor, it actually has a Sailor 1911 nib there. And this is a King of Pen nib, and it's a medium nib, so it actually, you can see there, the tip of that nib is actually quite fine. So a medium in a Asian nib is actually going to be more like a Western fine nib. So it does write quite fine, but it's a pen that I like writing with, especially in meetings. And it has a cartridge converter. It's not a piston, it's not a power vac. And then finally, we have the Armando Simoni Club, and this is the Bologna Extra, and it's in Africa. And I picked this up in June at the Midlands Pen Show, and you can see here the material is quite nice. It's very similar to the Burkina, but it's not the Burkina. And this is number 19 there, and you can see here that material is quite stunning. I do actually prefer the Burkina material a little bit more than this, but I do like this as well. And I don't actually have anything in the Burkina at the moment. Maybe that's something I'll pick up at some point in the near future. But you can see here the size of my hand. That's actually quite a long and quite a large pen, and it has a Armando Simoni Club, and this is the Magic Flex nib, but that's again a lovely nib. So for me, this is a good writing pen, and if you remember seeing some of some photos that I've posted of this in the past, it does actually write quite wet. So for me, again, that is a very nice writing pen, and I have that inked up this week as well. So I think with that, let's do a writing sample. So the first pen is the Armando Simoni Club, and so it's an Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Wild, and it's a medium. It's an 18 carat gold nib, and then the ink in here is Ackerman, and it's Deneweg Gron. But that's a lovely green ink. It's a little bit more of a bluey green ink, I would say. And then we have the lovely Visconti. So this is quite a broad nib because it's a stub nib. You can see there, it's quite a wet nib as well. So this is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl, and it is a 1.3mm stub nib, and it's a 23 carat palladium nib. And then the ink in here is Robert Oster, and it's Cafe Crema. But that is a beautiful ink, and I always have it paired up with that pen. And then we have the stunning Visconti Macchie, and this is still quite a wet pen, but not as wet as a lot of Viscontis that I have. But this is the Visconti. I'd always say this writes, from a Visconti perspective, a little bit more like a fine nib. So it's the Luxor Obelisk, and it is an ebonite pen, and it's a medium 23 carat palladium nib. And then the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki. But that is a lovely blue ink that I have inked up in there a lot. And then we have the London Fog. And I mentioned that the Luxor Obelisk wrote a little bit more like a fine nib. And this is a Visconti fine nib in this pen. So let's have a look and see what you think. Visconti, and this is the Homo Sapiens. And it's a London Fog in a fine 23 carat palladium nib. And again, the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki. But you can see there the width of these pens, like this is a fine and that's a medium. There's really not a lot of difference, maybe just a smidgen more wider on the Luxor Obelisk, but I would say in Visconti terms it's not like a medium, because Visconti mediums tend to be a little bit more on the broader side of things. Then we have the Opera Master River Thames, and this is a stub nib, so it's got quite a wide downstroke on it, and it's a Visconti Opera Master River Thames, and it's a 1.3mm 23 carat palladium nib, and the ink in here is Akamon Death's Blue, and that is quite a nice blue, more of a washable blue. If you compare it to, say, Konpeki here, you'll see the difference. And then we have the stunning Ecstasy Dowd. And this is a very wet writing pen that you can see here. And this is typically what Viscontis used to be like, and probably still are, but not quite as wet as they used to be. So this is the Visconti Ecstasy Dowd, and it is a medium 23 cat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Diamine Majestic Purple, but that's one of my favourite purple inks. And then we have the Visconti Jacques de Molay, the Templar pen. And this pen, out of the box, was a little bit dry. I've made it write more wetter. I still would prefer it to actually write a little bit more wetter still, like the Ecstasy Dowd, and maybe I'll change that one day in the future, but at the moment I'm actually quite happy with it though. So this is the Visconti Jacques de Molay, and it's a medium 23 cat palladium nib, and then the ink in here is Diamine Earl Grey, and again it's just a grey ink that I do love from Diamine. And then we have the Montegrappa. It's a stunning pen, and it's a number 8 size nib, and it has a little bit of a bounce to the nib, but it's also a very wet writing nib. You can see here it's quite wet. So it's the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove, and it's a medium 18 cat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Pilot Awashizuku, and it's Kiri Sami. And then we have the classic Pens Lb5, and this is a medium nib in an Asian nib, so it actually writes more like a Western fine nib, and it has a little bit of pencil feedback to it, not as much as say a Scribo does, but I don't normally go for fine nibs, but I could only get this in this nib, so it's the classic Pens Lb5 Kaoseki in a medium, and it's a 21 cat gold nib because it's a sailor nib. It's a King of Pen nib, and then the ink in here is Pilot Awashizuku Sakushi, or I believe it's Horse's Tail. And then last but not least, we have the Asc Pen, and you'll see here that this is a wet writer. This is a medium nib, but like with all Asc pens, it's like a paintbrush. It's just oozing with ink. Just lets so much ink out of the nib because of the ebonite feed that it has. So it's an Asc or Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Africa, and it's strangely a medium 18 cat gold nib, although this really writes more like a broad to a double broad. Probably more of a broad, I would say. And then the ink in here is Diatramentis Chocolate, which is a lovely chocolatey brown ink. So I think let's just go through the inks one more time. We have an Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Wild in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Akamon Denaweg Gron. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens Bronze Swirl in a 1.3mm 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Robert Oster Cafe Crema. We have a Visconti Luxor Obelisk in a medium 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Pilot Roshizuku Konpeki. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens London Fog in a fine 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Pilot Roshizuku Konpeki again. We have a Visconti Opera Master River Thames in a 1.3mm 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Akamon Death's Blue. We have a Visconti XC Dowd in a medium 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Diamine Majestic Purple. We have a Visconti Jacques de Molay in a medium 23 karat palladium nib, inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. And we have a Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Pilot Roshizuku Kirisami. We have a classic Pens Lb5 in the Kaoseki with a medium 21 karat gold Sailor King of Pen nib, inked up with Pilot Roshizuku Sakushi. And then last but not least, we have the Armando Simoni Club Bologna Extra Africa in a medium 18 karat gold nib, inked up with Diatramentis Chocolate. So there you have it. That's my currently inked pens for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.